Hello fellow crafters, welcome to Home Buddy. Today I want to take you through my process of recreating a pair of 1920s combinations. If you aren't familiar with the term combinations, they're essentially a romper but underwear. The term was first coined in the 1860s, but the style of undergarment came to popularity at the turn of the century and remained so up through the 1920s. And since I'm currently in the process of recreating my own 1920s outfit, these are the perfect undergarments to complete my look. For my source, I'm using an article from the magazine La Femme de France titled De modèles de combination culotte. I apologize if your ears are bleeding. Obviously, I am not fluent in French by any means, but using the limited French I do know, I can tell that the article gives not only a basic pattern to create a pair of combinations, but also some instructions on how to put everything together. So, taking the pattern corresponding with the figure on the left, I converted the pattern measurements from centimeters to inches and immediately noticed something was off. So, the article does give the width and height of the triangle on the back side of the culottes that folds up and under, but it doesn't give any measurements for the front triangle cutout. And since they are clearly a different size and shape than the back piece, I can't just use the same measurements. So I guesstimated to my best ability and drafted the cutout to be 8 inches wide and 4 inches tall. Historically, this style of combinations would have been made from either silk, cotton, crepe de chine, or rayon, but since I'm a lady on a budget, this gray modal bedsheet will have to do. I traced and cut the remaining pattern pieces before I noticed something odd. You can see in this pattern draft that the front and back pieces for both the belt, bodice, and culottes are all included, but I'm not seeing any straps. The model in the illustration clearly has them, so I'm not sure why this isn't included in the pattern draft. I'm assuming they just didn't think it was necessary since most women in the 1920s already had a basic knowledge of dressmaking and probably could make their own straps, but since they don't even include written instructions, I'm clearly on my own. So I decided to bite the bullet and grabbed some extra fabric before ironing on a layer of fusible for strength. Then I traced and cut a pair of 2-inch wide strips about 24 inches long. I deliberately cut them longer than necessary so I don't accidentally make them too short and have to recut them later. I folded and pinned the fabric right side together and sewed along the long edge before flipping and pressing the straps right side out and top stitching over. And with that, I had all the pieces necessary for the fitting. The fitting process was a bit confusing since I had some difficulty deciding where the belt was supposed to fall. However, after reviewing pictures of similar garments from the period, I decided to fit the belt slightly below my natural waist in order to fit with a standard 1920s silhouette. Once I'd marked and trimmed the excess fabric, I was ready to start putting everything together. In order to match with the narrow belt length, both the top edge of the culottes and bottom edge of the bodice need to be gathered. I'd explain how to do this, but every time I make my own gathers, I'm reminded once more that I barely know anything about it, so I recommend you check out other tutorials if you're really interested. Once everything is gathered, I can attach the front bodice and front culotte pieces to the front belt panel, and do the same with the pieces for the back, leaving me with 2 panels for the front and back of the combinations. Then I sewed the right side of the 2 panels wrong side together before trying it on to test the fit. It fit fine, so I took it off and sewed a rolled hem along the top of the bodice. Then I pinned and sewed my straps to the top of the bodice and trimmed the excess length to finish. Now here's where things start to get a bit more complicated. The combinations fasten in 2 places, at the waist and the crotch. You can see this in the article's illustration if you know what to look for. If I had planned ahead better, I would have left extra fabric on the left side of the front belt piece, but since I didn't, I ended up making another panel to sew onto the side of the belt so it would fit over the buttons properly. I traced and cut another layer of fusible backed fabric to support the crotch closure's edge and sewed them wrong side together. Then I flipped them right side out and attached snap fasteners by hand. I have no idea if they actually used this type of button for this style of clothing in the 1920s, but I figure it's possible since snap fasteners have been around since 1885. If I ever remake this, I will definitely cut the front culotte opening to be narrower, since my guesstimation ended up a lot wider than its counterpart in the back. But after a bit of finagling, I made it fit. Finally, I finished off the legs of the culottes with a baby hem, and topped it all off with a bit of lace for decoration. And with that, my combinations were done. I have to say, these combinations are insanely comfortable. And I think they turned out pretty cute too. I'm not crazy about all of my finishes, especially around the belt area, but for my first attempt at historical costuming, I'd call it a success. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below, and if you like this video, please subscribe for even more crafty content, and hit the bell icon so you'll never miss my latest post. Goodbye!